Today is March 6, 2011. My name is Linda Ho Pichet. Here for the 500 Oral History Project, we are going to interview Mr. Tony Nguyen. And Mr. Nguyen, can you please tell us your Vietnamese name and how you spell it?
Good morning, Linda. My name is Nguyễn Tường in Vietnamese. But here, people butcher my name. They cannot pronounce T-U-O-N-G as Tường, so they call me Tony.
Tony, please tell us what you remember when you were a small child in Vietnam. When were you born?
I was born in 1936 in Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam, thus making me a mouse. That's the year of the mouse, 1936. So in 3 more months, I'll be 75 years old. Can you believe it?
And what date were you born?
June 4th, making me a Gemini.
Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have any brothers or sisters?
2 brothers, and they're all here. They're oldest. I'm the caboose.
You were the youngest out of 3.
Out of 3.
What do you remember about your parents?
Our family is the 4th generation in Hanoi. My great-great-grandparents were from Hanoi. My great-parents, great-grandparents, and grandparents, and my dad, also from Hanoi. It makes me proud. I don't know why, but I was born in Hanoi, and right downtown. And when the French were defeated in Dien Bien Phu, I followed my family to migrate down the south, seeking for freedom.
How old were you?
I was 18 years old and 1 month.
Wow.
I left Hanoi exactly on 11th of August 1954, 3 weeks after the Geneva Convention had been signed between the communists and the French.
And how did it make you feel to leave your home?
Heartbroken. Always. There's no place like home. That's the first time. But it wasn't too bad. Leaving home, but you still living in the same country, just migrating from the north to the south. Only 21 years later, leaving home the second time, leaving your homeland to a distant and foreign land. That's hard, much harder, believe me.
How did your parents manage?
My dad died during the war, so-called Indo-Chinese War against the French. He was martyr. He's fighting bare hand against the French. First war casualty in our family.
What year was that?
December 19, 1946. I was 10 years old. And my mom stayed with us, with 3 of us, and went to the south in 1954. I complete my secondary education in North Vietnam and went to higher education in master degree in Oriental philosophy down the south.
What school?
University of Saigon.
And what does Oriental philosophy mean?
The war in South Vietnam is a different one from the north, between the French and the communists. The war in South Vietnam is between the U.S. and the communists. The essence of war is violence. I try not to be a philosopher, but if you decide to fight, fight to win. Fight dirty if you need it. Fight to win. And don't fight if you don't have a clear strategy for exit in mind before you go in, and not go in and scratching your head wondering how will I get out of this mess. What is history? History is the repetition of all the events, same over and over again. And if you fail to learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Just like right now, we in the mess in Iraq, Afghanistan, for that matter. Do we have a clear picture in mind how to exit, how to get out of that mess? I don't believe we do. We win the war in Iraq, but so far we haven't won the peace. And that's too bad, because someone in Washington did not and still do not have in their mind a clear picture of how to exit, how to disengage, if you will, of that mess over there. So you're doomed to repeat it. In Vietnam, when the U.S. went to disengage, U.S. betrayed us, South Vietnam. They pulled the rug under us back in the early 1970s, and they called it Vietnamization of the war. So why they come in there in the first place? And then at the very last moment, if you will, they try to put the blame on us, South Vietnamese, saying that our government is corrupted, our troops refuse to fight, and they turn over the war to us, saying that the Vietnamese should fight their Vietnamese war, not us. Let me ask you, how would you fight the war without any ammo? How would you fly the plane without fuel? How would you fire the howitzers without any shells?
Okay, thank you.
So the end was unavoidable.
What was your experience? Do you remember after you came to Saigon, what did your mom, where did she live? What did your siblings do for a living?
We got some money that we saved for our rainy days from the north, come down to south, and we were in a nation at war. My brother, number one, he was a colonel in the South Vietnamese Army. Brother number two was sergeant major, the highest NCO.
Oh.
And like any other youngsters by that time, I was highly motivated. I trust you remember the famous speech by President Kennedy back in the early 60s. Don't ask what the country can do for you, but ask yourself what you can do for your country. The U.S. is willing and will support any friend to fight any enemy for the freedom of the world. He meant Vietnam. He would never abandon us because we're in such a strategic position in the world and so forth and so on. And I believed him, unfortunately.
And when did you enlist, or did you get drafted, or did you enlist in the army?
I volunteered.
How old were you?
Oh, 25, 24, 25. And I spent the best year of my life in there, serving. I don't want to go in detail because something in there still stopped me up revealing all the, behind the scene things. I can tell you just this. I belong to the Phoenix program. We fought dirty against the other side. And at the very last minute, like I said, my big brother pulled the rug under me, betraying us. Name one. Name any boxer that you know. Muhammad Ali, he's what? 6'4", 250. Champion of the world, right? You don't try to get in the ring with him, right? Would you? You'd be crazy if you do. But I would. I would in the ring. I would get in the ring with him. One condition. Let me blindfold him. Give me a couple of handcuffs and shackles. I'll handcuff him in the back. Ankle with shackle. And that's exactly the position of the U.S. in the war of Vietnam. The role of the U.S. Army in Vietnam is just a blindfolded giant with the hand folded, handcuffed in the back and shackled in the ankles. They are all puppets. When Washington said jump, they were asked, how high, sir? They cannot do anything on their own. And they trained to fight. They're excellent general. But they received orders from the civilian in Washington. Like LBJ, he ran the Vietnam War in the White House, from the White House, from his entourage of civilian advisors. Tell me, a guy, let's say 19, 20, and go to ROTC and West Point, if you will, become first lieutenant, never left the country for anything. After 4 years, they become officers. Now send him to Vietnam. He doesn't speak Vietnamese. He doesn't know the language. He doesn't know the culture. He doesn't know the people, the terrain, the geography. Now, I take it back. The CIA sent him for 3 months in Monterey or somewhere in Army School of Languages, where people tried to teach him Vietnamese. 3 months. Shipped to Vietnam, making him an expert. He became our advisor how to fight the communists. The first day he went out with us on the, we call long range recon patrol. He's lost. How would he be able to advise us? He's advisor, he's our advisor. Wrong approach. And in the jungle, you don't use deodorant because you can be smelled for miles. You shave every morning, use deodorant, and flak vest, steel pot, slow us down. But he was our angel. He can get us ice cream. He can get us fresh fruit. He can get us chopper. He's our angel. Other than that, he's lost. You go on patrol for, let's say, 3-4 hours, and maybe you have 10 minutes break. And the rule of thumb is to be able to celebrate more birthdays, you dig your foxhole right away. When we stop, we dig it and crawl in there. I was about 125 pounds, 5'6". I dug my hole in 2 minutes. Little hole, put in there. So at least I have 8 minutes of rest. He's about this big, this thick. When he finished his hole, we're ready to leave again. He's our advisor. He doesn't teach me to speak Vietnamese. I spoke Vietnamese since I was 2. He doesn't know how to fight dirty. There's 10 other GI supporting him. Each of the South Vietnamese soldier is self-supporting, self-sufficient. We carry our own ammo, our own water, our own food, and we fight. I read a lot of articles about some think tank in Washington saying that the South Vietnamese army are lazy, if you will, or didn't have enough desire to fight for their own war. Wrong. They forgot that every time they point the fingers like that, 3 other fingers pointing back at them. So my advice for future generation is this. Again, don't fight. That's the last option to take. Don't fight. And if you do have to fight to win and get out fast, no point to leave a job unfinished. Does come to my question of what's the meaning of the Vietnam War. What can we get out of it? Monday quarterbacking, some 58,000 American lives been lost in the war. What about the South Vietnamese? And North, of course. Well, in the South, civilian and military, more than 2 million killed. MIA, if you will. But the bottom line is, for what? Oh, I remember a couple of famous U.S. generals, Creighton Abrams, William Westmoreland, Paul Hawkins, Wayne. They're all good generals, but every time they cable Washington, said, "Dear Mr. President, here is our plan to shorten, if not end the war. Bomb Hanoi. Because we believe that when you try to kill a viper, you hit the head and not the tail." And Washington cabled back saying that, sorry, no.
How would that make you feel to know that you were bombing your own hometown?
I always consider Hanoi as my hometown. But I left Hanoi 20 years prior to that time, 21 years. So again, the emotion becoming more and more clearer, bitter, bitter, and increasing by the day. Because every time Washington cabled back to their general they sent to Saigon, your plan sounds great, but there's always a but. This is going to be, rocking the boat. This is going to upset the Chinese. This is going to be, upsetting the Russians. Well, hell. When the Russians invaded Hungary, did they care about us? When China invaded Tibet, did they care for the U.S.? They don't care what we think. They don't care what the world think. They just did it. So, that's enough talking about the war. But we're one of the very few people to escape or be able to escape at the very last moment.
Can you tell us what it was like for the fall of Saigon? What do you remember?
A lot. I remember still vividly like it happened only yesterday.
What happened?
About noon, about this time, 11:30 or 12, the Armed Forces Radio, U.S., playing a song, "I've been dreaming of a white Christmas," in April. And then the secret message came on. The temperature in Saigon is 105 degrees and rising. That means drop everything and get the hell out.
And you were in Saigon at the time?
We were in Saigon at the time, and we're heading to the American embassy, where I had some connections with that.
This was you and your family?
And more. Oh. My family consisting of my mom, my wife, 3 kids, her mom, her kids, that meant her sisters and brothers. My brother number 1, who's the colonel, his wife, 8 kids. My brother number 2, his wife, 9 kids, making us a total of 33 people. I managed to get them all inside the American embassy, inside downtown. I managed to get myself a helicopter, but the first one that can land there on the rooftop was Huey, which is a smaller version, one of the smallest, can only carry about 10. And I said, we're 33. And we don't want to split. Either we go as one or we'll stay. So my Marines, I've been teaching the Marines there hand-to-hand combats for years. That's why I have connections there. About 10 minutes later, they got me a big bird. I remember it's a Marine CH-53, which is the Sea Stallion. I said, Sarge, how many people can that thing carry? He said, 60, sir. I said, okay. And that thing was huge, too big, too heavy to land, so it's hovering about 5 foot off the rooftop. And they put a ramp down. And I remember that I have my second son tied on my back.
What was his name?
Mano, the one in Hawaii right now.
How old was he?
He was 3. He young lad, about this big. I tied him in the back, and my wife got our girl. She's 1 on her back. And I got my mom on right hand and my left hand as my son number 1.
What is his name?
His name, Tom.
And your little girl?
The little girl is Queenie. Tom was almost 5, and my mom, 66 then. Queenie was 1. We didn't have anything, but we tore our bed sheets and making legs and put a child there and tied them in the back. Thus we running up that ramp to the helicopter, and the other 3 families, everybody up there, 33, and the chopper took off. It was about 7:30 p.m., April 29, 1975. As the chopper is gaining altitude, every time it took off, it dipped the nose and lift up. Saigon was burning everywhere. And all of a sudden we received ground fire coming from the ground up. The reason how I know, because I saw tracers coming at us. And that means every tracer, there's 5 bullets between the tracer coming at us from friendly fire. If I don't go, nobody go. Why you leaving us down there? If I don't go, you don't get on the chopper and fly away. That's how people felt.
How did you feel?
Again, bitterness, and all of a sudden facing a big unknown, flying where? I was 40-ish. I feel like a full-grown tree, and all of a sudden uprooted and carry me away and maybe transplant somewhere that I have no control of it, to a new country, new culture, new everything. So after about 40 minutes flight, the chopper flew east to South China Sea, about 60 or 70 miles off the coast of South Vietnam, to the 7th Fleet aircraft carrier, and that was the Hancock. That's a huge aircraft carrier. What now? I couldn't read. Anyway, when we land on the aircraft carrier, there's several thousand refugees there already. People have been living in Vietnam since noontime, since that secret message went on the air. People already. And now I saw choppers coming out there and try to land on the aircraft carrier. First they let them land, and later they didn't have enough space, so the captain forced them to crash land in the sea, and they plucked them up because there's no space on the flight deck. And even L-19, which is the Lynn Recon airplane, two-seater, trying to land on the aircraft carrier. Of course, they didn't have that hook, and it just ran out of runway.
Excuse me. So did your helicopter land safely?
Yes. One note about our chopper. Saigon was about 60 miles inland. So while flying from Saigon out there in the open water, the communists fired at us and missed. But they fire at our escort ship. They fly in tandem, one protecting the other, and the other chopper that flew escort us crashed. The door gunners, they have 3 door gunners, 2 on the side and 1 in the rear, were rescued. But the pilot, a major at that, and the co-pilot's captain sank with the ship. I believe they were the last American casualties of the Vietnam War. But our ship survived. We landed safely on Hancock, and thus began the new Odyssey, new life for us in this free land. We travel first class, light, We didn't have to carry any luggage, whatever on your back. That's it. We start life in the U.S. from square one.
And where did you first land, or where did you come to the U.S.?
The carrier went up and down the Vietnam coast for 3 days, plucking it up more refugees from sampans or anything that float, milk cans and you name it. And then we headed to Subic Bay in Philippines. And from Subic Bay, they bused us to Clark Air Force Base. About an hour drive. And from there, we get on C-141 Starlifter. It's a military cargo plane, jet, and flew to Guam, a tiny little island in the middle of the Pacific. Used to be a big B-52 base for them during the war in Vietnam. And on Guam, there's about 10,000, 15,000 refugees there already. And while on Guam, they set up screening centers, if you will, and representatives from different countries were there, and you can tell them your desire where to settle in the future. But first they call triage, which is the screening. Who are you, who with, and are you a good guy? Were you on our side during the war or the other side? So after all that, we expressed our desire to be able to settle in the U.S.
And why did you choose the U.S.?
Couple of reasons. First, we have friends. Our second choice is France, because some of my relatives were in France. In 1954, our family split. Some members go south, and some members would go to France. So that's why. Why the U.S.? Because I have American friends during the war. One of them was Dr. Dillard, D-I-L-L-A-R-D. He's a cool guy, and he's like my brother. We're so close. He kept coming back. He passed away now, but he was director of the Project Hope, helping the Vietnamese and wounded, injured in the war and all that on big ship. And then they have a huge hospital in Da Nang. He's the chief surgeon there. He came back many tours. He volunteered. We befriend and said anything to her. And the Red Cross on Guam asked me that any American friend that could tell us that you're a good guy, who are willing to sponsor you. I said, yeah. His name is Dr. So-and-so, and last known address is here. Director of U.S. Public Health Hospital, in Seattle. We call and we wrote each other all the time, but like any other human being, I like to receive letters than send. So at the bottom line, it come down to me once a year for Christmas, we send Christmas card. So I said, last known address is this. I don't have their phone number. Oh, that's the only address. So the lady at the American Red Cross said, okay, no problem. We'll track him down. So they call U.S. Public Health Service and hospital in Seattle. Nobody knows. Never heard of his name. I said, come on now. He's there for at least half a dozen years. He's director. Finally, old nurse, he's been there for 10, 15 years. Oh yeah, I remember his name. He used to be the big boss here, yes. Is he there? No, he's no longer here. He got a transfer down to Galveston. Chief surgeon, oncology, big shop down in Galveston, UTMB. And his wife also a doctor. She's director of the pediatric hospital in Seattle also. And they all in Galveston now. So they tracked Seattle down Texas, Galveston. Got him. Put him on the phone. I said, hey doc, guess who? He cried. I said, Tony, where are you? I said, on one. I said, your family with you? I said, you bet. Your brother number one, the captain? I said, yeah, my brother number one, but he's now a colonel. He there? Yes, his wife, 8 kids. Your brother number 2, he knows our my family. Your brother number 2? I said, yes, his wife, 9 kids. And he said, who else? I said, Hans family, 7 kids. Tell me the total. I said, the total is 33. Welcome to this land. Okay, look, we have a 5-bedroom house, 3-car garage, 4 bath and all that. The house is yours. Just give us 1 room. Ruth and I would need 1 room, the rest is yours. Just come. That's why we'll wind up in Texas, in this area. We were the first Vietnamese family, if you will, settled in Texas City and Galveston. Couple of weeks after that, I landed my job. The one and only job, and I worked there since I arrived to this country until the day I retired.
And where did you work?
It's Amoco, the big oil and gas company. The only Vietnamese inspector for a major oil and gas company. One job.
And how did you find out? How did you manage to get that job?
I remember that Dr. Diller took me by the hand and tried every potentially decent company. And I put in the questionnaire there all my degrees and all that. I was dumb then. I mentioned my master degree. I did not know that a very diplomatic way when they say you overqualified for the job. That's one way to say no. We're not hiring you for that, because I was telling them that I don't need a chance. I only need half of that chance. Let me start from the very bottom. I work my way up. I even say this, some young men, if people are going to hire me, some of you will be working for me some of these days. I remember saying that. But I'm willing to start from very bottom and work my way up.
And what degrees did you have by that time?
What
degrees? You had a bachelor's?
I have a master's degree in, like I say, Oriental philosophy. It got nothing to do with pipeline or gas or petroleum for that matter. But I have trust in myself. I was so confident that with my diligence and my will to survive, I'll be the first guy on the job and the last one to leave, and turn in the best performance I could, because hey, I just lost everything I got over there to come here and start my life again. Everything is on the line. I would, work to earn that thing, work my way up.
And how long were you in Guam before you arrived in the United States?
We about a week in Guam, and then they flew us to Fort Chaffee in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
They put us in a army barrack, number 1621, for 10 days, and all the legal process. We're not convicts, we're not bad guys, we're on the friendly side. I contribute. So they decided I'm one of those decent, law-abiding. And I told them, this country is strong because of the people that coming from different part of the world. Diversity, that's a strength, not a weakness, because people like us are very proud of our heritage, very proud of who we are, and very proud of our strong desire to become assets to the community, not liability. We tried very hard to get a job. And when you have a job, you work. When you work, you're producing, you're paying tax, you blend yourself in the mainstream, you're contributing. Because when I talk to people, I want to make eye contact. Look right into their eyes. I don't have to lower my vision, And it's very easy to become addict to charity, to handouts. I know I cannot do that. We cannot do it. The Vietnamese too proud. So never a single day we stay on welfare. I can only speak for me. I have no intention whatsoever to come here and to spit in the soup. My intention is to bring more spices from our own country, from our own culture, from my race, to add more spice to the big spot. Just making more, you know.
Speaking of food, was there any culture shock when you came?
I don't like hamburger. Even after 36 years here, we eat rice 2-3 times a day. And my first impression when I came to this country, I told Dr. Dillard, I called him Arch. Arch. I never seen that many fat people like that in my life. Half of people are obese, at least 100 pounds too many. Yeah. And that's a fact, and he gave me the ear to ear again. I said, I agree. I was about 125 pounds, skinny. And after 41, 42 years of marriage, I gained another 20 pounds. Anyway, our main diet, like I said, is rice. We eat lots of fish.
Did you ever feel discrimination or people treating you differently because you were Vietnamese?
Yes. Many. Even in my own company. But I have pity for them. And I always try to talk to them, to educate them, because to me, the only thing that can lead you to prejudice is ignorance. So those people they never got out of even their county, let alone the country. They don't know what the people in different part of the world look like or think like. They might look dumb, but they're not really. They're more intelligent than you think. So after I talked to him and explained to them the hostility is, oh, I didn't know that, You have ice cream in Vietnam, you have this, you have that, I said, yeah, sure. We have everything. I asked him, you speak French? He said, no. The only French said, merci beaucoup, and all that. Or the Kunas, Louisiana. I do, fluently. Much better than English. And I asked them, you speak Spanish? I said, no. I do. So how many languages? I said, I learned Chinese, I learned Cambodian, I learned Laotian. So my view is a little bit wider than those, like a horse and the blind. They can only see that. That's how I would say ignorance does lead you to prejudice. I am not mad at them. I have pity for those people. that firstly when they just saw me or first met me, said, we don't want you here. Why don't you go back to where you come from? Said, so where are you from? Where's your parents from? Where's your grandparents from? Were they starving in Italy? Europe somewhere? You name it. Only the American Indians were here first. When Christopher Columbus got here and they found the Indian sitting on the shore, they asked him, why you took so long? We all came from somewhere, like I said. But we're different. The Vietnamese people, the Vietnamese race, is different. There's still a number of Vietnamese refugees on the welfare list for one reason or another, but the majority get back on their feet and self-sufficient. And I want to emphasize on the word refugee. It's a big difference between being a refugee and an immigrant. Don't get me wrong, I love this country. I want to be in this country, but in capacity of tourist, not refugee. We're not we're not immigrant. We're not here seeking for a better life because we're starving over there. We're here by force. That's between, we have wave after wave after wave of immigrants to this country, from Europe, from everywhere, to build a railroad to California. There's a bunch of Chinese. And people are starving in the street of Messina down Sicily somewhere, and they want to go to Newark, go through Statue of Liberty, Staten Island, and all that. By the way, many Italians named Tony. You know why?
Why?
You mean you don't? Really? Our main port is New York. Way back when, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, main entry port. So many people come from Europe, mostly Italy at one time. So where you want to go to New York, because that's the only one American name, city name that they know, New York. So they make a stamp to New York, stamped in there, to New York. Tony,
Why?
where you gonna go? New York. That guy with the hat, where you wanna go? New York. Tony.
So tell me about your name change. Why is it Tony?
My name is, like I say, Tường, T-U-O-N-G, the Chinese. Oh, Vietnam and China used to share the same language, writing-wise.
Mm-hmm.
If, like say, if you're a China girl, and I'm a Vietnamese boy, even we can not converse, we can sit down, communicate writing-wise. Until the 17th century, when a Portuguese priest by the name of Alexander Rhodes, he invented A, B, C and trying to incorporate it in our language. It become the modern Vietnamese language. 300-400 years. Anyway, the old traditional Vietnamese way Tường that had two meanings. The concrete meaning, that means the wall. But the abstract meaning side, Tường, that means something transparent, something you can see through, something bright. Tường. People cannot they cannot pronounce it here. And they always misspell it. It should be Tuong, and they always wrote Toung. Why don't I call you Tony? Similar. I said, okay. Get by with that. And when you in Rome, you have to do the way that Roman doing thing. We, but Vietnamese, we believe in the family. Without the family, you nothing. First, without the family, you're not here. You don't exist. Without your parent, you floating somewhere in the air. So your mom, your dad create you. Thanks to them that you exist today, sitting here interviewing me. Same here, my dad, my mom. So we always believe that the family is the nucleus of everything. Thus, the family name goes first. I trust you remember some famous name like Ho Chi Minh, a famous North Vietnamese general, Vo Nguyen Giáp, Chinese leader, Mao Zedong, Chinese opposition leader, Chiang Kai-shek, ex-president of South Korea, Park Chung-hee. So we put the family name first, and some uncles or favorite aunt name for middle. Your name come last. Why? Because we believe that life began in the womb of your mom. 9 months, couple of days before you came to this world. Your mom, your dad already knew that you would be a boy, and then your name would be Jack, John. If you're a girl, your name would be Linda. 9 months before the birth, life began then. But you already a member of the family, so the family comes first. And then your middle name. And then only 9 months later you come to this word. Oh, beautiful girl, Linda. So they put Linda right there. Here it's different. They reverse it. They say the individual comes first. Yeah, it's okay. That's a way of life. But in the part of the world where we grown up, we believe strongly in the family.
And is that why you still practice respect the ancestors at home?
We we pay lots of respect to our parents. Like I said, without them we don't exist. We seek them for comfort, we seek them for advice. When they pass their prime, we don't put them in the home. We keep them at our home. Why should they be penalized? You know, we put in a so-called old people warehouse waiting for their departure from this world. On that, I can relate to you a very common story among the Vietnamese involving 3 generations. Just try to visualize that typical Vietnamese family, 3 generations, old man about 70 years old, and his son about 40, and his son's boy about 4 or 5 years old. So 3 generations there. So the middleman about 40 years. He's a successful businessman. He's making lots of money. He travels, he collects things, jade, emerald, and all that. And he collecting rice ball. He bought, unique, very precious ball from different part of the world and put in his house, and he's very proud of it. But also he's very proud of his dad. He's now 70-ish. And at mealtime, he's serving rice and present to his dad. Said, this is from the Ming Dynasty, 1500 years old. And they say that if you eat your rice in here, it would increase your longevity and all that. So the old man said, thank you, you're so kind. But being old is not a crime. He started eating. One day he dropped it. Yeah, he's shaking all that, broke it. Oh, I'm so sorry. How can I replace that? First, expensive. Unique. So don't worry about it, Dad. I'll find something similar later. Don't worry about it. Sometime later, he found another one. Not like that, but expensive one. He continued to serve his dad with both hands. Please eat rice from this bowl. Again, the old man broke it. Second time. Don't worry about that. Find another one. Again. He broke it again. Said, Dad, you're killing me. I'm so sorry. But he tried to talk to his dad. Don't worry. It's only a material thing, I'm sure there's one somewhere. I'll find it. But then one day the man came home, and walking to the garage, he saw his boy, 4 or 5 years old. He's very good at his hands. And the boy was working on something. And he said, boy, what are you working? I said, oh, well, you don't want to know. I'm working on something. And he said, yeah, I want to know. And he approached the boy and saw the boy working, polish and carving all that, a coconut. He's carving dragon and phoenix and you name it, cut out of a coconut. You're pretty good at your hand for a young boy, carving all that fancy thing. Well, why are you doing this? Well, he said, what do you think to eat rice with? I said, you doing this for Grandpa? The boy said, no, for you when you grow old. He learned. No more complaining. So, you better get what goes around comes around. We don't put old people in the home. We keep them with us. I repeat to you and to future generation, without them, you're not here. That's it. Concerning me, the last time you interviewing me about 4 or 5 years ago, my kidney failed. I was under dialysis. Remember Charlton Heston, the famous actor, Ben-Hur and all that? He suffered from Alzheimer. And when he learned he got that disease, he said, the world we're living in is very cruel. Nobody can leave it alive. Three years ago, I thought I was leaving this world. My kidney failed. My fingers are popped up. My leg and all that. Fluid retention. My kidney failed. So, an angel stepped in and said, not too fast. I'm here. I'm going to save you. And the angel sitting over there. It turned out to be a perfect match. We almost like identical twin. Not only the blood, but the tissue and everything, high percentage, 98, 99% match. So.
And you're referring to your wife? What is her name?
Her name is Han, H-A-N-H.
Mm-hmm.
We 10 years different. We thousands of kilometers away. I always consider myself being born in the north as a Yankee, and she's a rebel. She's from the Mekong Delta. And 42 years ago, she gave me her heart. 42 years later, she gave me one of her kidneys. 2 more months, that'd be 3 years. So my first birthday is June 4th. My second birthday is May 23rd. The transplant doctor said that, Mr. Nguyễn, if you survive the first week, you're going to be okay for a month. If you survive your first month after the transplant, you're going to be able to live for a year. if you survive your first year, you're out of the woods. With one caution. Your new transplant kidney only lasts you 23 years, according to whatever they found in there. I said, oh, after 23 years, who cares? Oh, bring it on. They want to do it on May 21st. I said, impossible. I said, why? We schedule you for May 21st for a transplant. That's a very important operation. I said, that's our anniversary. I said, can you reschedule? So at least we go and celebrate our anniversary first, and then and they nice enough to reschedule it 2 days later. Oh, we now have lots of fun, party, lunch and party, and dinner and all that. And the following day we both check in the hospital, and the kid jokingly asked, Mom and Dad, you have a 1 room or a 2 room? I said, no, different room. In UTMB in Galveston, and next morning, about 5 in the morning, they propped us up and put us on a stretcher. She on one and me on the other, and we holding hand in hand. They wheeled us in the OR. She in OR number 1. I was in OR number 2 with a connecting door. She went in there first. I was laying out there saying, what are they doing to my wife in the open up? And then finally they wheeled me in the OR too. They cut her up, got her left kidney, hand carried, which is about 15 feet hand carried, over to OR2, opened me up and put it in. And just like the light switch over there, after 60-something years in one body, female, cut, hand carried, inserted into a male body, suture, all the ligaments and all that, and just like a light switch, you turn it on, start working. Like I said, 2 more months will be 3 years. And so far, no complication. Knock on wood.
Congratulations.
So, to the world out there, Han might be just one person. But to this person, she's the world. The reason that I'm here talking to you today, I give up all the credit to Han.
Beautiful.
By the way, a little bit about Han. How long people take to here to go to college and get a pharmacy degree?
Years.
Years, at least 5. It's 6 now. It took her 1.5 years.
Wow.
Married, got a family, husband, 3 kids, full-time job. Went back to school in 1.5 years, got her degree back, start working as such.
Wow. That's amazing.
My hat off to her. So I think the best decision in my life is marrying her. And I consider myself as one of the lucky one that got away. I've been on dialysis for 19 months with needles about this big, number 14 gauge needle. They put a shunt in my arm, a shunt made of Kevlar, a stuff that they're making flak vests for the GI in Iraq, bulletproof. A little tube they insert into my forearm, one end connecting to my vein, the other end to my artery. So 3 times a week, 3.5 hours each time, I go to the dialysis center and they put 2 huge needle in there, in this angle. One there, one here. One there for it goes to my heart. And from the heart coming out in this, coming out to the machine. For 19 months. They stabbed me 252 times. Time 2. Because each time is 2. But I never gave up. So another advice for future generation, when it's never give up hope. Things will get better. I never believe in dialysis. It's not the solution. You can buy time, but it's not the final solution. That's why I continue to keep hope and continue to go swimming. I forgot to tell you that I'm a long distance swimmer. Even under dialysis, I put in 10,000 yards a week, freestyle, 5 days a week. I call them my non-needle day. Like, I'll go to dialysis center on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll go swimming Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and on Sunday. My nephrologist said that no dialysis patient like you that continue to swim like that. After the transplant, only 7 weeks, I went back to the pool. You don't see very many people in their mid-70s swimming more than 10,000 yards a week. And I've been swimming for the last 15 years. Just like you put in a marathon every month. Not backstroke, not breaststroke, freestyle, non-stop.
That's amazing.
We are swimming Webster, indoor, Olympic size, heated, senior citizens rate, and people that know me and I know them well, and they don't call me the animal for nothing. I'm still swimming like men possessed. And maybe all the credit goes to it. The time I went to dialysis, most of the people there were obese, no exercise, and they got other problem on top of their kidneys. And when I told them that I swam on my non-needle day, nobody believed me. Only my nephrologist and my cardiologist believed me, because MRI and CAT scan reveal that
Strong.
people pumping iron, they got big muscle here. I got muscles in my heart, very strong. And it only show when you MRI or CAT scan, yeah.
Wow.
And that's the result after years of hard swimming.
Right. That is amazing.
At my age, if you don't take care of your body, who will? Not very many people having a second chance like me. So I have to take it more seriously this time. I start looking at things closely. This time, I enjoy it to the fullest. It's been a pleasure talking to you the first time and the second time, like this.
Well, I appreciate very much you sharing your life story. It's an amazing story, and I'm glad you're here today to share it once again.
Anything else you want to tell?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Did you have any other stories you wanted to share?
No. My legacy, I'm just a simple guy. I never tried to be somebody else that I'm not. But you can accept me at face value. I mean what I say and say what I mean. And maybe to future generation, the success only come before work in the dictionary. If you go out there, work with your heart and always believe it at yourself, that things will get better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.